if you're into environmentalism or the environment, global warming, that kind of stuff, most, I would say, 80% of the important environmental regulations that have been passed in the past 30 years were not passed because of like civil lawsuits. They simply weren't. You know, it was people in Washington working with congressmen, you know, all that stuff that I don't know anything about, passing these great laws, you know, and that's something that you can do to make a real significant difference in the world that doesn't involve law school. Sorry, you have a question?
No.
Okay. Third question that you should be asking yourself, or I would like you to ask yourself. Are you the type of person that enjoys being able to say, I helped this person? Or would you be satisfied saying, I made this great change, right? And the distinction I'm trying to draw is between direct service work, like we did, for that Iranian guy, or the sort of impact litigation that we're bringing on behalf of, against SB 1070 and the SWIFT rates kind of stuff. And this is a huge difference. The biggest distinction, because I do both, right? And that is without question the biggest distinction in my job, in that I spend half my day working on behalf of people that I can say, okay, I helped you. Jose, Maria, I helped you. As opposed to this sort of abstract civil litigation type work. And if you find yourself in the wrong bucket with regards to that, there's a very good chance that you will be frustrated. I definitely prefer the direct service work that I do. I definitely prefer calling people and saying, hey, I got your green card, come on, pick it up. And the other stuff that I do is more, I don't know, prestigious probably sounds obnoxious, but it definitely gets more, how about this, it gets more media coverage, right? The other stuff that I do, the big time lawsuits that we file, are in the news and people know about them and you can talk about them at bars or what have you. No one ever asked me like, hey, did you get that visa for Jose? Like, no. But during the day, like when I'm at work, and again, it's a job, like it's every day, right? And when I'm at work, like it really makes you feel good. And that might be you. And if that is you, I'd really suggest that you look into direct service work. There's tons of awesome direct service organizations in LA that you guys can volunteer at and do awesome work and get a ton of satisfaction, I guess, out of it, right? And if it's not you, if you're like, no way, man, I want to be swinging for the fences, that's awesome. Go for it. Again, there's tons of organizations that do impact litigation. But just be true to yourself, right? True to your school, man. Next one. Oh, this is more the practical issue of working for the poor, working in civil rights. Are you going to be comfortable not making as much money as your peers? Again, this is a real thing. It's a job. The people that I worked at my law firm with have more money than I do. That's just the way it is. The people that I went to law school with, and I'm a better lawyer than they are, they make more money than I do, you know? And when you're your age, I would imagine, because you're here, you guys are active, you care, you're saying to yourself, well, you know, I'm not a money person, I don't need stuff, right? And that's how I was, like, I don't need stuff, I drive the same car I used to drive, my little Jetta. But it becomes an issue as you get older because my friends, I don't have any children, but my friends who have children, were I to have children, their children are going to go to better schools than my kids are going to go to. Again, that's just the reality, right? That's the system that we live in. And you should be true to yourself about whether or not that's something that you can really deal with. Is that really going to bother you? Because there's this, I don't have a thing to draw on. With regards to those of you who want to be lawyers, right? There's this graph that talks about law salaries. And if you were to draw a graph from like $50,000 a year to $200,000 a year, right? Are we with me? This is 50, this is 200. The graph's like this. And so what it means is there's a lot of people who make like 50 to 70, and there's a lot of people that make like 150 to 250. But that they're in the middle, your middle class salary, if you will, in Los Angeles, it's the middle class salary. There aren't that many jobs out there that pay you that kind of money. And so you're, at least now, at least with regards to the way the legal system or the legal profession is set up now, you're picking a side, right? And it's a real thing. I don't think that making that much money should make a big difference. When I made that much money, when I was on the other side of the graph, I was miserable. I hated it, you know, and I wasn't happier, and I had nicer shoes. but, you know, you might be in a different place. Or the other thing that might happen is you might find a partner who does make good money, and you decide to be the person who works. And you can, I mean, obviously there's so many ways around this problem, but it is something that you should be aware of. And then the last thing I would say with regards to working in human rights and civil rights and what have you, is that the cases matter. They matter. They make a difference. And that sounds great, right? It sounds awesome. Like, man, you did this and it's super, super good. But the problem is you don't always win. And when you lose, it matters, you know? I have a guy who I know is going to get deported in 2 weeks, and he stole $2 worth of socks. That was his crime, out of the country. That's a tragedy, you know? And that's going to suck when I have to call him up and say, we're done, you know? Good luck in Mexico. I have another kid who I know is going to get deported. He doesn't speak Spanish. He came to the United States when he was 2. He can't speak a word of Spanish. His whole family's here in the United States, and they're going to deport him. Like, that's rough, you know? When the phone company loses $300 million, as I said earlier, quote myself, who gives a shit? It doesn't really matter. And that cuts both ways. And you should, you know, that's something that you should be aware of. You don't always win. And if you don't win, it's a total drag, right? So that was it. That's all I had for you guys. Are there any questions? Anything you guys want to ask me at all? You think I might be able to contribute? I'm happy to talk about it. At all. Yes?
And how is, like, your organization, is it funded through Georgetown, or is it funded, I mean, basically, is it funded through Georgetown, or how are you funded?
No, just for the record, I'm completely unrelated to Georgetown. I just happen to go to college there.
Oh.
It's totally separate. We get our funding from 2 ways, fundamentally. There's a thing called the IOLTA fund. So you're a lawyer, and you win a $2 million judgment. You put it in a bank account to hold it for the person. That bank account generates interest. Every lawyer in the state has a bank account like that. And all that interest from that bank account goes to the bar, and the bar gives it to public interest organizations. And we get money from that. That's actually what pays my salary in particular. And then when we win the big lawsuits, we sue for fees, and we can get massive fees because the cases are so big. And those are basically the 2. And then, you know, contributions and donations from kind souls like yourselves. That's it. That's fundamentally how we're funded.
I have another question, actually. My friend who wants to go into human rights law, she told me that some of the, like, more prestigious organizations, they actually look for people who have worked in, like, corporate law or, like, big law firms because they have organizational experience. Because sometimes, I don't know, like nonprofits, I don't.
We're not a prestigious organization, so I have no idea. I can tell you this, like, the good public interest jobs, the ACLUs of the world, the amnesties of the world, they can afford to be picky. They can, you know, because frankly there's more lawyers in California than there are jobs. And you're right, and those jobs are prestigious, right? I mean, it's cool to say, I'm an ACLU attorney, check me out. Does it give you an advantage to go to a big firm? No, but I can tell you that, like, what usually happens, because we're all fish, is kids go to law school, and they do well in law school, and then they go to the big firms, because that's what they all do, right? And so what ends up happening is people burn out like I did, exactly like I did. They burn out, and then they go, I'm going to stay my same path. I can tell you that the fact that I had my firm listed on my resume, sure, I know it helped me. Like, I know Peter knew, my boss, I know he noticed that. But can I say that your best bet is to go to a place like that and get 2 years in? I can't imagine that's really necessarily true. If you go to a decent law school and you do well, you know, you should be all right. I know we don't, I mean, not that we've hired him forever, but, like, it's not something that we look for. That's it. Yes?
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always know you wanted to do law, or was it kind of something that you realized?
Oh, God, no.
Like,
No. Not at all. I mean, not that you want this level of detail, but I graduated a theology degree, right?
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I decided I was going to get a master's in religious studies.
Mm-hmm.
And Arizona State actually has a decent program in that. And I got in, and I called my dad, and I was all excited. Religious studies. And my dad was like, yeah, why don't you go to law school on the side? Like, you know. And then when I graduated, I had 2 options, right? I had my law degree and my religion degree, and so I could either go off and become a lawyer or be unemployed. So, or did you say you're studying religion?
What?
Did you say you're studying religion? Someone over there said religious studies. You're studying religion.
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for transferring.